Welcome, another episode, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights. Special guest. Well, this is obviously a special guest. First female guest I've had. Delighted to have Angela Loeffler, Stefan's lovely wife, and she will do the dueling questions format with me. I've been. It's very unpredictable, completely unscripted, and she doesn't know what I'm going to ask her, but ladies first. She'll be going first. But first, thanks sponsors: Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication, ComC.com. Burbank Sports Cards, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Heritage Auctions, Hugs and Scott Auctions, Upper Deck, Topps, and Panini. So those are the sponsors. Listeners, I think we're going to have some fun today. I'm going to get questions from a different angle, a different gender perspective. So, Angela, welcome to the show, and I look forward to your first question.
Thanks for having me.
Do you want to give a little bit of preamble before the question, just your 60 seconds on your involvement in the hobby? You're married to Stefan.
Yes.
But you do stuff in your own right.
I do. Most people don't realize this, but I do have my own collection. A lot of it, people actually think it's his collection, sadly, which is the Allen and Ginter sets. Okay. But in reality, that is actually mine. But I've been in this hobby for, back in this hobby since 2008. But I was originally actually in this hobby in '93 when I was 6 years old. So Sadly, there's nothing left of that old collection. But it's basis on how everything started here. Fair Anyways, enough. My first question for Dr. Beckett is: what is your favorite thing in your card office?
Well, since your husband's there, I'm going to say it's the David Arias platinum. I almost like to say it's a pre-rookie card, but that I wouldn't say that if he wasn't there. My favorite player was Roberto Clemente. That has a special meaning to me because I lived in the Pittsburgh area when he was the amazing star, and then I've got a Babe Ruth card that I really like because it used to be my dad's. That my dad got out of a pack. So, okay, that was a softball, Angela. That's too easy. What should people like me or others be doing to increase the number of women that can enjoy this hobby?
I actually seriously asked that exact same question to Topps at my first Topps Q&A.
Okay.
And I honestly do not have an answer to it yet still.
So no recommendations? No. Mm-hmm. If you were in charge, what would you do?
Well, it's kind of really hard to deal with that in retrospect. Women in sports has become a lot bigger thing than when I first started talking about this in around 2009, 2010. So what I think could be done more is just more visible women that are collecting cards, because there's not many of us out there. But what there is of us, I get comments all the time about how that I'm collecting for him, or I'm doing this all for him, and I'm not doing it for me, which is kind of hurtful.
Yeah. What is it? 5% women, you think?
Maybe. I mean, when I went to my first Topps Q&A and they line all the guys up in front of everyone at the Q&A and they start asking for questions, it was all guys. Meanwhile, when I signed up to go to the Q&A, there was at least 5 different women that were not standing in front of me then. So I was like, well, what is this? Where that started the whole chant of "Where is Suze?" which Suze had just been hired by Topps at that point. So. Which she did not miss a single national after that "Where's Suze" chant. Good.
Suze was outstanding, and Emily, I think, is doing a great job.
Oh, yeah, she's doing a wonderful job. I haven't had many conversations with her yet, but I'm looking forward to the day that happens.
Absolutely. Your turn. Another question.
Okay. I've heard a rumor that you keep your collection separate from your house. How does your wife feel about that?
She's excited about that. Again, only a woman would ask this question, but there's nothing sports related in our house. Oh. The sports art is all in my man cave. So I have a man cave that has, so it's on our property, but it's a structure in the back that I can do whatever I want to do. So, but if you look in our house, you'd think, oh, you collect birds, or you collect flowers. So no, that's my awesome wife. She's the aesthetics. Some I said, well, what about this Mickey Mantle painting? She said, that's goes in the back. That goes in the back. So, but it's basically, I mean, I think it's part of, not necessarily part of the deal. I think you can integrate it, but my problem is, and it might be like Stefan, I mean, I have so much stuff that it could be overwhelming. And so we have our understanding. And so
when we were searching for our first apartment, we actually, I was looking at different apartments. I was like looking at closet sizes, and the apartment agent was like, "Is this closet going to do it?" And I'm like, I started laughing. I started bursting out laughing, going, "No." And she's like, "What are you keeping in it?" I'm like, "It's not good enough." Like, she thinks that I'm this like crazy person with like a ton of clothes. I'm like, "No." I'm like how much weight do these shelves take? I was like, "No, I have a serious sports car collection. It requires some. I can't be on the third floor and not ask about weight restrictions."
So I can remember back in the day, back in the early days, cards, there were, there was just tops, mostly when I first started. And so you could, have your cards, it could fit in a closet, or it could go, in a drawer or something. But now, wow, it's just, there's just stuff all over the place. So.
Yeah. And the organizational stuff has come a long ways, but it's not quite there yet.
Okay. My turn again?
Yes.
Okay. I think that I am old school with my choice of pronouns. You're old enough to be certainly my daughter, and maybe, gosh, I don't think you'd be my granddaughter, Angela, but I'm old enough to be your dad for sure. So, sure. Do women nowadays in the hobby cut some of the older generation some slack, in the sense that my pronoun choices are so male centric, because it is 95% plus a male hobby? But I don't want to be insensitive, but it's like, I can't say he or she all the time without thinking, well, there are not that many she's. I mean, you're a notable exception, and I'm happy for that. But should I be more sensitive, or do women that are in a mostly male situation realize that it's, I hate to say it's benign, because it might be hurtful. So what would you say about that?
It's not hurtful to me. I grew up with all my friends were guys. Okay. Like, my personality is that I'm one of the guys. I've never understood most girl stuff, so it's kind of like, I'm one of the guys. I'm always the one like, okay, let's go watch a game, a basketball game, a football game, a baseball game. I mean, I think I watch more basketball than Stefan does, but it is what it is. I mean, I'm not offended when somebody doesn't include the she pronouns or anything like that. I'm just not that particular. Well,
just want to make an editorial statement here for listeners. Angela is taken. If you like what you're hearing, tough luck.
We do exist.
Stefan
you just have to go find it.
Stefan has already, claimed Angela.
Yes.
Not that she's his property, but she's a loving wife, and that's a good thing. Your turn again? Was that me?
Oh, okay. I think that was you. Any which way. What is your most favorite way of organizing your cards? I heard briefly that you like the 5,000 count box thing, but is there any sort of organization to your collection?
Yeah, I have two. Well, the main organization, I mean, it's by sport.
Okay.
My kind of stacks of shoe boxes and monster boxes and things like that. But my front-facing display is alphabetical, regardless of sport. It starts with Hank Aaron and goes all the way to Z. And so in the J's, you'll see Michael Jordan, but it could be Hank Aaron and then Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It could be so it's 1,000 different players of all different sports, including wrestling, including hockey, including NASCAR, including anybody. So it's like a good card from each person, and those are all graded. So if people pick them up, I'm not worried about them dropping them and stuff like that. But the other stuff is kind of alphabetical. And this is one, I think I did an episode about this, but the whole idea of plastic sheets, I'm not totally against them, but I have too many cards to do plastic sheets. And so I kind of keep them in a monster box. And so I had this kid come over, and his grandfather said he just loves Troy Aikman, and he heard you were a big collector. And so can he look at your Troy Aikman cards? Well, he started looking at my Troy Aikman cards. If it would have been in plastic sheets, he would have just been flipping the pages and saying, oh, that's cool, that's cool, that's cool. But they were in a stack in a shoe box. And so he's pulling them out one at a time. And he got through about 50 cards, and he just was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So I don't have an optimum system for. It's geared for your husband. It's geared for somebody that's already an intense collector, who's gonna know exactly to go look for, because I already know what he's gonna look for first the next time he's over. But and I can find the important thing is I can find pretty much anything pretty quickly. But it's only set up for if Stefan wanted to come over, and wanted to look at Twins players. I do have a box of Twins miscellaneous stuff, but mostly he'd have to say, I want to see Tony Oliva, I want to see Harmon Killebrew, and then I could pull out some stuff. So I think there's no absolute, there's some wrong ways. The wrong way to me is you can't find what you have. The right way, there's a bunch of different right ways somebody could have it. So I think Stefan has them in albums that are chronological, and that makes a lot of sense to me. I'm not saying that's probably what I would do if I were doing if I had that collecting focus, but I'm too eclectic at this point. So,
I understand.
Okay, I think we have time for one more, but I think it's my turn, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. What do you think would be the biggest surprise for somebody coming into the hobby right now? I mean, let's take away any kind of COVID stuff, but somebody that just comes in, man or woman, but just from your perspective, somebody comes in and gets involved in the hobby. I guess especially a woman, so somebody all of a sudden gets pulled to a card shop or a show. And I've seen you at the shows, and you know what to look for and have fun and all that stuff. But how would it not be overwhelming for somebody, especially a woman? Would it not be overwhelming if she were a pretty decent sports fan, or what would you recommend?
It's better than it was 10 years ago. My first national was very off-putting, and it was very eye-opening, and it's gotten better since then. A lot of the change of everybody has been a lot more accepting to every normal everyday people just walking into the hobby, which is I'm very happy about. It's not necessarily overwhelming. I'm a people watcher, first of all.
Okay.
I love watching how people interact with other people, and I understand where cards move around the room, which is what I'm doing at shows. Is I'm talking to a lot of people, asking about collections. I'm asking about different things that I've seen in other people's cases, because I know that card probably has made around the room 3 times. I'm not paying what this guy wanted. I want to pay what 5 guys ago wanted. Because the card didn't change between those 5 hands. It's the same card here. I think the hobby is more reachable than it's ever been in that regard. No longer people are asking who I'm selling it to. They don't even care anymore who they're selling it to. It's not part of that club of, well, you're not good enough to buy this card. It's, you have money, you can buy the card. So, which I think is a great thing for this hobby. So,
well, that's a nice note to end on, I think, because I do think I hope the hobby is kinder and gentler, and at least even now it seems like the hobby's going pretty strong to where people ought to have a smile on their face. It's a wonderful hobby, and the fact that y'all as a married couple can enjoy it together, I think that's absolutely terrific. And so I wish you the best. And I hope we can do some more episodes in the future. Thanks, Angela. Thanks, Stefan, for allowing your wife to be part of this, that we could do back and forth on the dueling questions. So thanks, listeners. Thanks, Angela and Stefan. And we'll be back again tomorrow with another episode. It may not be as interesting as this one, but it'll still be a fun episode tomorrow as well. So thanks again, listeners. See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.